Okay, one more time.
Minutes. Mark.
Motion on the minutes. Mark, do I have a second?
I
Motion.
second the motion.
I'm going to call that to be Raina. Was that Raina spoke up? Okay. Can I'm going to call out names just because I can't see everybody. Sean, you're officially on the committee now, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Sean, do you want to say yay or nay on the minutes?
Yes, I approve.
Sean, Jamie,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Raina. Yes. Camilla? Yes.
Yes.
Aaron? Aaron, yes.
Yes.
Aaron, Jackie?
Yes.
Anya?
I wasn't at the last meeting, so I don't think I can vote on them.
Okay, so we'll have one abstention. Okay, so that's all set. The other thing, the other vote that's on tonight, and if Chris LeBlanc, if you'll work with me, was to look at the proposal, the designer's proposal on the exterior palette, which is based on the model school proposal. But we wanted to actually pause a moment and ask you to look at it because for reasons that Mount Vernon Group will talk about, they want to continue with what was used on the model school. So I'm going to just turn it over to Chris to do that, and then we'll cycle back to the regular agenda, and I will take this agenda down so you have the screen, okay?
Great, thank you. All right, so I will share and let me know when you see that. We can get going.
Yep.
Perfect. So as Margaret said, the first thing we want to do is share with you the exterior color scheme for the model school. I'll let Dennis explain what we're looking at, but this is Marlboro, and it does reflect what we had planned for the new Peck school. Dennis?
Thanks, Chris. Yes, I'll put my video on here so you can see who's talking. This is the Marlboro School, and it has a color palette that's very similar to the two model schools that came before it because the color palette was quite popular, actually. The idea of this color palette is to sort of break down the scale of the school, the building, to be a little bit more comfortable, especially for younger children. So instead of having one big red brick building, we've taken and to scale developed horizontal banding of, as you can see on the bottom, cast stone. And then the brick schoolhouse grows above that, but we top it off to reduce the height, the visual height of the school. We top it off by switching the color of the brick to a lighter color in the body of the school. But where we have major elements, such as the library and the front entry, we allow the red brick to continue through. Now, red brick and tan brick come in a variety of different colors. And we will, as time goes on, be presenting different color combinations and samples to you. It's important to note that when we specify the bricks, we might not get the exact brick colors we specify, but that's why we stay to these very traditional colors that have a sort of timeless quality. And also, we make an effort to just go with one color mortar. We go with a simple, plain mortar, which looks the same no matter what material it's touching. And we don't have the problems of having to change mortar colors when we change brick colors. You've probably seen many buildings where after repointing, and if they had several brick colors, there's patches of red mortar where the tan brick is and tan mortar where the red. We don't have to worry about that with this color combination. So the idea was to be timeless and to use a color combination that is legible as a civic building to everybody that looks at it.
Okay. And Dennis, just so everybody understands, right, when we're talking about the colors being very similar, you know, the actual colors may vary slightly in shade only.
That's
Right.
exactly right, because, well, most of the brick we see in our life is red brick. And it's really hard to get, and for me especially, I'll admit, to go look at a building and then after looking at the building, have somebody show me two bricks that side by side look like they're very different colors, or three and that look like very different colors. But for me to try to decide which is the one that I really just looked at, because the brick is really part of a composition, and what makes up the color of the school is not only the brick, but the brick in scale. That is to say, you look at a brick and you hold it in your hand and it looks red. But if you further away it gets, the lighter it seems, because it's in proportion to everything around it. It's called atmospheric perspective. And on top of that, you have the mortar, which helps lighten up the color of the brick as well. So our intent is to go with a good traditional red brick, and we want to do something that has that deep red that the Marlborough School and the Athol School, and for that matter, the Abraham Lincoln School in New Bedford all have, and top it off on the upper story with a lighter colored brick, whether it be a buff or a yellow brick. That will make the difference. It's important that the band of cast stone between the two brick colors reads, and that's the main thing we would be concerned with there. But so as you can see, it goes from light in the at the base with the cast stone, red brick with some white detailing in it, and then a white horizontal line that carries through most of the school except for where our towers stick up, separating the red brick from the yellow brick, and then the red brick is allowed to climb up the second story at the main entry as well as the library.
Okay. Any questions on our color for the new school? No? So the
I
next,
just want to make,
I think it looks fantastic.
this is
Why
Mark
Take
Lugo.
the image down so we can see who's talking for a second.
Sorry about that. I
Right.
just wanted to say I had the opportunity to go to the Marlborough School, and it was very nice, very pleasant to the eyes, and blended in nicely with the surrounding.
all right.
And was there someone else who spoke up there?
It was just me. I was just saying that looks so good. It just looks so good. It's so nice.
Thank you. Well, there's a special magic to red brick that it really stands out to everybody as being a very solid material, and the type of material one really wants to see in a civic building, and especially one as important as a school. So thank you. I'm glad you like it.
All right. Anything
Can I
else?
just ask? I see Les Sepulveda, and I just wanted to check and see who that was.
He's
Is that
an interpreter. I'll assign him.
Oh, okay, great. Perfect. Okay. Well, so I think it would be helpful to the design team if we could, the committee could take a vote to confirm this approach to the exterior finish. So does someone want to make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion that we approve the design put forth with this color scheme presented this evening from Mount Vernon Group as the final decision for the exterior of the school.
Second.
Mark seconded. Okay, I'm going to call roll again, but it's going to be in the order I see it on the screen. So Sean?
Yes.
Mark, yes.
Yes.
Aaron, yes. Presumably Raina.
Yes.
Jessica.
Yes.
Camilla. yes?
Yes. Yes.
Jamie
Yes.
and Jackie
Yes.
and Anya,
Yes.
and it's unanimous. Okay.
Thank
So thanks,
Can
everybody.
you please email out that rendering to the committee?
The rendering.
Did you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, can you
you
send
want-
us that picture?
We can circulate the rendering. Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Actually, can I just ask, having done that, can we put that image back up for a minute and just talk about where the building signage is? Because I think that's sort of part of the overall image. And I get Chris and Dennis, can you see it on this image where the building name is presented?
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so everybody can see the picture again?
Yeah.
So typically, the school name would go right over the front entrance in this area between the two accent lights. And then we would have a ground-mounted sign, which we're still working on the concept. We'll have that for you at the next meeting. But that would go presumably right at the entrance where the parent drop-off comes in off Charlton Street. So as you approach the school, there's kind of a little roundabout where the parents come in, turn around, and head out. And that's one of the locations we're looking at for a ground sign identifying the school as you come in. You know, the William R. Peck Middle School.
That basically gives you identification from two approaches, one from down the short, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the
Stapleton
street.
Street.
And yes, and then you'll see that on the front of the school, and then the other coming in at the parent drop-off. So the school's well identified. And what we would suggest, there was some talk whether the school is going to be renamed or whatever. What we would do as part of our specifications is buy out, sort of like the maximum number of characters, in order to make sure we can get the sign we want. And so you can sort of name it anything you want, from the school to the, Abercrombie and Finch Middle School. So we'll get as many letters as we possibly can and make that happen.
Let him come down, okay?
So
I was just gonna ask Chris and Dennis, because we talked about the location going there above the front entrance. Is that gonna be proportioned to the entryway there in the building where it's sized correctly so you don't have just like this huge sign that's covering everything and that's all you see, or will it be proportionally correct so that way, yes, you can see that it says Peck School and everything, but it's also not an eyesore?
yeah, fortunately, correct.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
We
Sean,
will
that's a great question, because that's why we try to, buy out the maximum. So we know we can, make it fit in there and work well, because that name really should be, part of the architecture. It shouldn't be like an afterthought that somebody went and, stuck a name up on it, but it was part of the design. So.
Correct. That's my thought. It was thought out from the beginning.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Absolutely.
very good.
Any other questions? Okay, so some of the other things we'd like to share with you moving forward is
Actually, you know what?
yeah.
I'd like to, actually, why don't you do this? I think this is important for Mark to see. So yes, why don't you keep going, Chris?
So one of the things we're working on as well is the interior courtyard. And what we have here is the courtyard layout sketch that we have done in the model schools. And it's broken down into three kind of distinct areas. We have the circular outdoor learning space, the synthetic turf area, and then a raised garden or planter boxes to go through this area. This has been sent over to our landscape architect so that they can finalize, low maintenance plants, et cetera, to kind of go forth in this area. And we do have some images to show you of what's been done and completed in Marlboro as well, to give you an idea. But this will accommodate a number of learning spaces. There's some low maintenance ground covers that will be provided, a few small shade trees, and our landscape architects kind of working on the specifics about that. And then the raised planter boxes towards the end with some pervious pavers. Okay, so everything's green, it's natural, and is to the extent possible. We do have some concrete pads that will allow students to come out from the breakout or the media center areas and utilize the space as well. And, we'll talk with Sean and his group regarding maintenance, because we do want it to be low maintenance, and, as well as the educational people as to how they're going to use that. And then from there, so this is looking at the seating area with some accent lighting, the pie-shaped circle concrete space for an outdoor learning space. And another view from the inside will show the synthetic turf with the planter boxes in the background. So right now, that's kind of the intent. Our landscape architect's working out the specific details of, the type of plants and ground covers and things that are going to enhance it, make it very user-friendly, and provide low maintenance for the school staff. Like that, anything, Dennis?
That you said it all. And again, working with the landscape architects, we will be using the materials that, the quantities of materials that you see, but we might find that because we have step outs from some of our breakout areas onto it, that there might be some little enhancements maybe through the synthetic turf that will make this outside area specifically your own and work with your school. But as you can see from the photographs, we just block out a quadrant and say ground cover, but as you can see how the ground cover really works, it can change in scale and types of planting, and that really helps enclose the walls. We would like to use the stone walls with the sort of slate seating on them, because it gives a nice scale and comfort to the outside area, and it looks like the sort of attention to the outside area was given that one would give to a classroom, because it is an outdoor classroom, so it sort of reinforces that idea.
And typically in this area, we'll also provide, Wi-Fi access and things, so that if teachers come out there with, computers, less students and laptops, they do have connectivity. Any questions?
I have one.
Anya?
The lighting in this picture, is that so you can plug a phone in, or is it just kind of an aesthetic thought? Because I'm just wondering about, kids kicking that or bumping into it, or
Yeah, so
if
we
that
can,
was thought about.
look at the specific type of lighting and where it actually goes, because obviously, kids bumping into it and things of that nature. We'll review that with our landscape architect as to what the best suggestion is. Of the various schools, there's different types of lighting that's been done. This is kind of one of the more common ones that we put in.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just even like the wall sconces, since it's
Right.
like pretty
Have
close
them
to the
built
wall.
into the walls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I like what Anya's saying, and I agree with her. I'm thinking on the level, like when they're out there shoveling or snow blowing in the winter to clear all those paths and everything, crashing into them with snow blowers. But also too, what about some outlets out there? So if this is gonna be a learning area, they're gonna be able to maybe need to plug in a laptop or something to that effect. So that we would need some type of power there so teachers can have that ability.
Yeah, Sean, what we've done in a number of locations is provide the exterior outlets, as well as some data. A
Yeah.
teacher might want to bring a small podium out there for some type of award ceremony, provides flexibility in the use of the space.
Okay.
And we'll discover, exactly how that's going to be used and where the best places to locate those things through our meetings with the user group. So that's, it's a really good point, John. Another way we've done lighting is to keep it protected and just down near the ground to flood that. The fact is, this particular light on this project was selected this way as input from the building committee. They liked the light. We used it elsewhere on the site, and we put it there. Sometimes we put it behind, and sometimes built into the benches. So those are the types of details that are going to be, critical and important as we design that interior space.
Right. Anything else on the courtyard? Okay, so moving along. One of the next things that we have to talk to you about is the interior color schemes, etc. So we have Susan Taylor, who's our interior design director, and she can kind of walk you through what she's been working on.
Hello, everybody. So we had a meeting this afternoon with a user group to talk about the interior colors. We missed you, Sean. We hope you feel better soon. Our objective really was to get a direction of a direction of a color palette, so we can take that back and develop a little more and generate some 3D images that will show where the color placement is. The slide's a little dry, but it's just telling you some of the things that we talked about today in coming up with a color scheme and color selection. So the things we look at are the color placement, the color palette, and the materials, and all of these things are very much interrelated to each other. Our discussion was very informative. It was very lively. It was a great meeting. I had shown some slides, and we're not going to show them here because it's a number of them. But we talked about color placement, first of all, and we talked about wall patterns and floor patterns, and it was really looking to get some sort of feedback on, what the group felt was appropriate for their school. And we sort of kicked that around, and then we determined that stronger floor patterns than stronger wall patterns were better, particularly in terms of longevity and durability. We looked at bold versus soft colors, really strong, vibrant colors and what they can do to a space, and then some softer colors and what they can do to a space. And we kind of landed somewhere in the middle on that one. We also looked at images that had lots of accent colors, walls painted all different colors and different colors on the floor, and then some images that just had one color in the classroom or in the space, and that tended to be a little bit more preferable in that regard. We also looked at what I tend to call like a foundational palette. It's just sort of the background colors that might be in a school. These would be things that sort of build your accent colors and sort of bring them into their colors that you might use on some very permanent things like block walls. I'm sorry.
It's okay, Susan. I think you were getting some feedback. That's okay. Keep going.
Sorry. So those foundational palettes can either be like a warm tones or cool tones. So we tended to gravitate towards the cooler tones. We don't have that here. These are the two boards that we showed. We looked at samples. I pulled out sample books of VCT, linoleum, and ceramic tile. These finishes tend to sort of dominate the accent color choices. We try to coordinate them between one another. Things like paint, there's limitless colors, so we sort of let that follow the accent colors. I brought 6 pre-selected color palettes, trying to get some feedback, generate some ideas. Oftentimes it's very spontaneous if people react to something positively or negatively. So we eliminated a couple of these right off the bat. The group tended to gravitate to the top middle one and the bottom left one. And so then we took those and we did kind of a mashup of them and arrived at a color palette. And Chris, you can flip to the next slide, that we're going to kind of proceed with. So we felt that, you know, one of the things we look for in a color palette is how the kids are going to respond. Does it reflect them in some way, you know, whether their age group or their school identity, things like that. And these colors tended to pick up on that, both the high school color and what made the middle school color. So we sort of gravitated towards that. We'll take these. So our next steps MVGs to take these colors, develop them a little more, bring some other materials in to sort of round out this color palette, start placing them throughout the building, and then showing those, again, those 3D images at a later date. One more thing I wanted to mention, that we did take a tour of the Ludlow School, which I'm in right now. And we walked around and just looked at some of those materials and finishes and color choices in person. It really helps to understand how and why we choose the colors that we do.
So I see Erin Brunel has her hand up. Erin, do you want to chime in about this?
Yeah, I just want to say that it was a great meeting, awesome experience. You know, to be honest, I was driving over there like, what do I really care what the finishes are? And, you know, once we sat down and, Margaret, what was the lady's name who represented the district for us? I'm sorry.
So it's Sarita Gravline,
Sarita.
If I'm saying
so
that.
For some background for you guys, Sarita is our like executive connection through central office, and she basically works with all of our building principals. And she was in Peck for the last few years and has taught and principaled middle schools in the past. So some of the things like I was interested in, I was immediately drawn to were like the busy walls. And she just had such great points, which I'm sure Sean Sheedy will appreciate, of like patterns on walls. Like we'd have to repaint that in 5 years. So she had some really great feedback and thoughts. And, you know, we were all really happy with the color scheme we landed on. We kind of like that we picked kind of like 3 colors, thinking like 1 per grade almost. So that way the pods can almost be like color oriented. So overall, it was just a great experience. It was great to put hands on and see some of the textiles. We're definitely leaning towards a lot more like, say, hard surfaces in the entry and common areas, like, you know, concrete and tile and things like that for longevity thoughts. But overall, it was really great. And I appreciate Susan and her knowledge. She was so quick to be able to like rearrange colors as we were playing with the different samples she brought. So it was a really good meeting, and I personally am very happy with where we ended up. I'd be interested to hear other people's thoughts.
Well, you know, I think one of the things that is the challenge about Zoom meetings is this kind of color selection and discussion. I'm thinking just to sort of divert to another upcoming event that we're going to talk about. We have scheduled a kickoff event, if you will, at the school on October 17th, tentatively, which is an opportunity to do a kind of public announcement about, at that point, we will be getting ready to begin the demolition of the school. I want to put it out there. This is just for reaction from the design team. I mean, they might actually be a good opportunity. If we need to find a date in a nutshell that a few more of the building committee folks can come and see this in person. So, for instance, one of the things that isn't communicated very well by this picture is that the floor tile on the left is actually kind of a light purple color. Looking at this photograph online, to me, you know, it looks kind of gray. So I'd love to have all of you have an opportunity to see this sort of in person. So we'll look for an opportunity to do that, or to have a sample board in Holyoke that you could stop by and take a look at. So Susan, is that something you could help us with?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Because I do want people to see it. And it's not final, it's a direction that's being provided to the design team that will help them provide further renderings for other things that we're going to be looking at going forward. Erin, did you have something else to say, or is your hand still up from before? I'm guessing that his hand's still up from before. Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
driving, finding the buttons. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm all set.
I know.
Thank you.
I forget all the time. So, okay, great. All right, so it's 6:48, and I bet we've lost Mark at this point. Yes, but we've still got a quorum. We got 8, so we've got a quorum. So, I'm going to keep plowing ahead here. Chris, what else was in the design bucket to talk about tonight? And then we'll go back to the agenda and pick up the things we skipped over.
So, you know, Margaret, I think that's it for tonight for us. We do have, you know, some direction now. So we'll continue to plow forward and get the boards, and we'll get a ground sign sample and picture of what we've typically done for the next meeting.
Great.
With a location. And to Sean's point, we'll also work to put lettering, you know, appropriately scaled, and give you a kind of a sense of how that's going to look. And we'll go from there.
Fabulous.
Okay.
All right. Well, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cycle back to the agenda and kind of pick up the things we skipped over. So I know the thing I had originally expected I would start with was an update on schedule. And this will actually allow us to pull in updates on a couple of things. So let me share the schedule. You will recognize this from the last meeting. And I want to give you some updates on this. So MSBA, when we last met, the team had just submitted the MSBA package, the 60% construction document package. We had a brief meeting with them this week, and they had lots of comments. We just received them by email as this meeting was started. So we have some homework to do in responding to their questions, but we'll give you an update when we have the responses back to them. So that's going on. On the consultant team, you know, again, there's that 60% submission. What we are about to begin is this filed sub-bid pre-qual process. And I want to stop and talk about that a little bit. I might have mentioned this at the previous meeting, but just to apologies if I'm recapping. So in the Massachusetts world of procurement, there is a process where the owner team, which in this case includes ourselves, the city procurement office, and Mount Vernon Group, has an opportunity to place an advertisement to say the project is coming. We state the estimated value of what are called the filed sub-bid categories of work, which are trades such as masonry, electrical, HVAC are kind of the big ones. But there are, I think, 16 in total. So we place an advertisement. We say we're accepting qualifications for these people. Companies submit their qualifications for doing the work. The team reviews them and pre-qualifies them. Now, generally, it is, unless there is someone who is applying who really does not have any experience in the kind of the magnitude, the size of the project, we would typically, review qualifications and pre-qualify most applicants. But it is a helpful process because people understand that if they don't have any experience in the kind of category and scale of what we're doing, they're unlikely to get pre-qualified. So it does really help sort of improve the quality of the bidders. And unless you are pre-qualified, a trade bidder who is pre-qualified, you cannot submit a bid. So that process is starting right now. The participants are going to be ourselves, Mount Vernon Group. Jamie will be involved as the Chief Procurement Officer for the city, and Sean, I expect you'll have some involvement as well. But most of the work will be done by the consultants, and then we will be bringing it to Jamie and Sean for their review. Similarly, there is a process for the general contractor. So the way it works in Massachusetts is public construction is first you bid these trade contracts, these 16 categories, and then once those bids are received, they are shared with all the general contractors, and then the general contractors bid, and they pull in the low bids, the qualified low bids from the filed sub-bid process. That probably all sounds like gobbledygook to some of you, but that is the sort of odd complexity of Massachusetts procurement. So I just wanted to let you know we're about to really launch that this week, and with a lot of assistance from Jamie. And the other activity that's going on, and I want to thank Jamie for her help, is we're about to advertise what's called testing as an inspection. So we publicly bid the requirements for doing testings and inspections, independent testing and inspection throughout the project. And we need to bring someone on now because although we're not going to be building for a while, one of the common inspections and tests has to do with the placing of soil and compaction testing as they're filling the site once they've excavated the foundations. So I'm going to stop. Erin, your hand is still up, but I'm going to guess it's from before. Does anybody have any questions about the gobbledygook of filed sub-bid and GC pre-qual? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. Okay, so that's what we're doing. And headed sort of off the edge of this page, headed towards finalizing bid packages in November. So permitting, there's been a lot of action since we last met. So we did have the first site plan review hearing on September 12th. And then we actually had a subsequent, the planning board suggested, which was very helpful, a site visit, which happened, I guess it was on the 20th this week. So they came to the site on the 20th, and then the team had a follow-up meeting with the city planner to review his comments. He had a very detailed list of comments that the team's responding to. And so what will happen is we will go back and have what's called the second hearing, where there are responses to the comments and the planning board has a discussion about whether there should be any conditions on the approval. But my sense was that the planning board were really keen about the project, had a chance now by visiting the site to understand what's involved. And I think it's likely that they will vote to close the hearing on the second hearing. Sorry, it's here, on October 10th. And then I've just listed here, in case it goes to a third hearing, that third hearing would be October 24th. At that point, we will be done with the local planning review. The other thing that happened was on the 18th, we had a stormwater permit hearing. There were some comments and questions that were raised. And Chris, I couldn't find in my notes the date that was set for the second hearing, but I think it's also the first week of October. Do you remember what that date was?
I don't know the specific date. We're gonna have to look at my notes, but yeah,
Yeah.
I believe it's the first week of
I think,
October.
yeah, I think they meet every 2 weeks. So I think
Right.
that meeting is this week of October 2nd. So, the thing that came up at that hearing, I think we'll need a little bit of assistance from the district on this. And Sean, I'm looking at you too. They are the board that hears the stormwater reviews is interested in having more of LID. Chris, remind me what LID stands for.
Low impact development.
Low impact development. So there's a sort of increasingly common process for design approach to managing stormwater that is also considered an educational opportunity. And to be honest, Anya, I'd definitely be interested in your 2 cents on this, perhaps after the meeting and in your landscape architect experience. The challenge we have at this site is that because the site is filled and because of the kind of soils and because of the complexity of the slopes, the LID strategies are tough to apply.
I agree. Yeah. Infiltration is going to be tough, especially on fill slopes. And
Exactly.
you always need a overflow. So
Right.
you can always, handle the first inch of rain, half inch of rain, your 10-year storm, store and infiltrate that and have a high level overflow to the municipal system. So anything you can do to break that up and collect it with rain gardens and bioswales, I think that helps. It definitely helps with water quality. So you can get points on that. But to fully have like infiltrate under your entire parking lot, not only would it be very costly, but you might run into geotechnical issues on a fill.
Yeah, I totally agreed. So, I think we need we'll need to bring someone from the district to this meeting, and I think also Sean. So we'll have a follow-up meeting about this. But that was really the only comment that we heard. The stormwater folks otherwise accepted the calculations, the drainage calculations, and everything. But I think they did feel that it was an educational opportunity, which I don't disagree with. There's just not a good location on the site for it. So more on that to come, but that's what we heard. So that's the permitting line. Middle school building committee line. So we have not gotten together, this group, since we received the 60% estimates, but hopefully you all had a chance to see the really good news that we got from the estimators. We're below where the approved project budget, construction budget, by a couple $1 million right now, even including the so-called alternate A, or the dingle alternate. So, I mean, that was, really, really good news for the project. And so we're racing ahead. Here is the meeting we're having tonight, which is trying to pick up on a whole bunch of pieces about finishes, colors, items that are coming up in the site plan review. Everybody has in their calendar a meeting for October 5th, but at this point, Chris and I do not think we need to have that meeting at that point, and we just like to confirm that everybody who is here can come to the meeting that's on October 19th, which is in your calendar. So is there anybody here that cannot come to a meeting on October 19th?
I might have a tough time coming on that day. It's my son's birthday. We don't
have.
I didn't have October 9th on the calendar.
You said 19th, right?
19th.
Oh, I didn't have October 19th. I had, just so people know what's there is currently on their calendar, it's October 5th and 12th.
I have an invite in my calendar for the 19th.
Yeah, I thought that you asked me to switch it. I don't know. I'm just letting people know what's reflected on mine is October 5th and 12th. So
well, I mean,
we can
could
obviously reschedule anything, but
no, we could do the 12th also. I just think we don't need to do the 5th. So I'm going to take that out of this for the moment. Can I get some feedback about preference between the 12th and the 19th then? And does everybody but me seems to have constant problems with calendar invites? Does everybody else have the 12th?
so Margaret, I think none of us, we didn't have like I'm looking at Anthony's, he doesn't have the 5th on his, but he does have the 12th. I'll look at Jackie too.
I have the 5th and the 12th.
Okay, you have both. Okay.
Yeah, I only have the 5th. I do not have the 12th.
Wow.
Yeah, I have neither of them, Aaron.
Well, I'm just going to delete everything and start from scratch. But so what day do we want to meet?
Well, I would like to put in a vote for the 19th. Understanding Anya, I think, will not be with us because of the birthday. I would never want to drag you away from
It's gonna be
kiddo
8.
birthday party.
8's a big deal.
It's a really big deal. Believe me. It's my kids are in their 20s. It's still a really big deal.
Well, thanks for understanding.
So could we otherwise make the 19th work? Because that would be my preference. Going once, going twice. All right. So Aaron, let's reconnect about getting that. Does it look like the 19th would work for Anthony?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay. Okay. All right. So design review, again, we're kind of catching up on bits and pieces of design. I have to say the city's the planner, the chief planner for the city, did a very detailed review of the site documents, which I think has been helpful in terms of collecting a bunch of pieces. Chris and Dennis, I think we have we have to circle back with the fire department and police department, or at least I think the fire department on a couple of issues, right? So
yes.
We haven't sort of finalized that, but there is, let's say, TBD fire department meeting coming up. And any other city meetings we need to schedule?
City meetings, fire department is one. HG&E on a couple of minor issues. Solar photovoltaic panels on the roof.
Yeah.
We do want to circle back with Anthony and some of the administration on security to finalize all of our, all the input we received at the initial meeting. Just some minor detailed stuff. That should get us there.
Great.
But I'll take a look at my list. Obviously, we'll want to meet with Sean again on some follow up with our hardware. Sean, just on our previous meeting.
And actually, thank you for reminding me about the hardware. So when we were at Harrisbrook today with Susan, Sarita noticed the hardware at Harrisbrook. So each classroom door has a
keypad.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a long day. Can you say anything here about where we are with the proposed approach to the hardware for the classrooms, or has that been settled yet? Is that one of the things you need to meet with Anthony about?
So, yeah, I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, but we talked about utilizing the same type of hardware, a manufacturer that's preferred by Sean and his group to be consistent with the district, but we were still talking about using a keypad for the classroom entry doors.
Yeah, that was correct. So that way we're not losing keys or handing out new keys all the time. A code can be easily punched in and or changed, and it allows the doors to be locked or unlocked in an emergency situation rather than fumbling for a key or something to that effect. It can be easily programmed with a push of a button, and the door is locked for safety purposes.
Right. Okay. Chris, anything else before we give an update on the early package?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Okay, so early package construction, the American Environmental is on the site. We have, as I probably mentioned before, we have a site representative who is now on site whenever the contractor is there. He wasn't able to join the meeting tonight, but I'll have him join a future meeting so that you can all meet him. His name is Lee Figgins. And he's actually been working for Whitney on a series of MSBA funded building repairs over the last, I don't know, year, I guess. So he's familiar with the district. He's really terrific. And it's his job to sort of be the eyes on the site every day for the architects as well as ourselves and the city. So a couple things to know. So the contractor is about to put up a construction fence. We have notified the city councilors that the construction is starting. And in my car, I have the notification letters that are going out to all the abutters to tell them about the project. And what we're doing is we're sending them all letters kind of explaining a little bit about the process. We're offering what are called pre-construction surveys of their property. They don't have to do this, but at no cost to them, they can have someone come and do photo documentation of the outside and inside of their house, which is a protection for them as well as for the city in the event that something happened. Now, there's no ledge here. There's no drilling. The biggest impact is probably just going to be, a lot of truck traffic back and forth on the site. But we feel like it's just a good practice to offer that documentation. So we're offering them documentation. We are going to ask everybody who wants to join a Zoom meeting, and we'll give them an overview of the process. Right now, the activity that has started is the abatement, the so-called abatement, which is removing asbestos-containing materials from the building. So they're basically working. If you went there, you wouldn't see anybody on the outside. They're mostly working inside the building, removing stuff, and then they'll be starting the demolition in mid-October. Once they've taken the building out, then they will be filling the site. So the mayor had asked us to coordinate with American Environmental an opportunity to, celebrate the beginning of the end or the end of the beginning of the old Peck. And so we've tentatively, actually, I think it's pretty firm now. We have set up an event for October 17th. Erin Linville, do you want to chime in about this at all? Or do you want me to just describe what we've talked about?
We just want to have, we're going to meet more on the 10th to plan it out, but we wanted to have an opportunity to officially kick off the demolition, some hard hats. The mayor and the superintendent will be there, Aaron Brunel, Margaret, and others. So it's just kind of to kick off and get excitement. Meanwhile, we're trying to do things like preserve anything that we can from the Peck building, like we took a bunch of pictures of the murals which I'll send out to you guys, that were on this front of the school, and other ways to honor the Peck legacy.
Yeah, I don't know how many of you seen it, but there are two, really handsome ceramic murals, and Mike Hines, who works with the district, did a beautiful job documenting them. So we can't save them because you can't, that kind of ceramic just doesn't, there's no way to remove it without wrecking it. In fact, Whitney, I noticed one of the pieces was chipped, and Whitney volunteered that had been him trying to see whether the pieces were removable or not. So unfortunately, we can't keep them, but we have kept, we have photographic documentation that could be reproduced in the new school if we so chose. So, Chris LeBlanc, what am I forgetting about the early package?
I think you've covered it all. They're moving quite rapidly. We have people on site monitoring, the abatement process with air quality testing. Fencing's going up. We will eventually have our geotech on site when they start removing the foundations and placing fill to ensure virgin soils haven't been disrupted, and the new fill that's coming in is placed accordingly and compacted accordingly in preparation for the building contractor in the future. I've been told that they will probably only need one dumpster for some miscellaneous items. So we have them carrying four. So we hope to get a credit for that in the near future once everything's completed. So I think we're in good shape. The contractor's good. We've worked with them on a number of projects. They seem eager to get things moving along and meet a schedule.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but the superintendent, Adrian Cardona, is actually an HPS graduate, so that's kind of great too to have there. So although we did it in a different way than it was described in the agenda, I believe we've hit all the agenda items. Erin Linville, was there anything else that you wanted to chime in on?
Did Erin Brunel talk about the naming of Peck and what they're going to do at the school committee level?
She did not, but that would be great if you could.
Yeah.
Are you able
I didn't want to speak for her, but I didn't see her still on. But school committee. Okay. Yeah, school committee talked about it at the meeting on Monday, and they referred it to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Subcommittee to talk more about it's like whether they want to keep the Peck name, or whether we want to consider a process for selecting a new name. So it's ultimately the mayor's decision. He wants to involve the school committee, and they want to study it more. We're not in a super time rush or anything, but it's referred to that committee. That's all I can say. If you have questions, ask Erin Brunel.
I think there's no rush on this. So the city should not. There are a lot of things with this project that are a rush, but this is not one. That is not one of them. So, all right. Any last questions? I'm not seeing any hands. Does someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Jackie. Second?
I'll second.
Rena seconded. I'm going to call names again. So Jessica?
Yes.
Jackie? Yes, I think.
Yes.
Camilla?
Yes.
Dave Yos? Hello? And possibly goodbye.
I regret I only made it here in time for the adjournment. I'll go along with it. So,
okay. If you want to call me tomorrow, I can give you an update. Jamie?
Yes.
Jamie, yes. Reina?
Yes.
Yes. And Anya? Anya, I think, may not have Anya anymore. But of those of you who voted, it is unanimous. So let us consider the meeting adjourned. And thank you all so much. And we'll see you on October 19th. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Actually, we're
Take
going to
care.
see you on October 17th at the school.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.